Welcome back to the listening room. Today's story is told in the form of a secret diary. A woman confined to a room by her well meaning husband with nothing to do but rest and think and stare at the walls. What she finds in those walls will disturb you long after this episode ends. This is Charlotte Perkins Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper. It's a very seldom It is very seldom that mere ordinary people like John and myself secure ancestral halls for the summer. A colonial mansion, a hereditary estate, I would say a haunted house, and reach the height of romantic felicity. But that would be asking too much of fate. Still, I will proudly declare that there is something queer about it. Else, why should it be let so cheaply? And why have stood so long untenanted? John laughs at me, of course, but one expects that in marriage. John is practical in the extreme. He has no patience with faith, an intense horror of superstition, and he scoffs openly at any talk of things not to be felt and seen and put down in figures. John is a physician, and perhaps, I would not say it to a living soul, of course, but perhaps that is one reason I do not get well faster. You see, he does not believe I am sick. And what can one do? If a physician of high standing and one's own husband assures friends and relatives that there is really nothing the matter with one but temporary nervous depression, a slight hysterical tendency, what is one to do? So I take phosphates and tonics. I travel for air and exercise. I obey every instruction. And I'm absolutely forbidden to work until I'm well again. Personally, I disagree with their ideas. Personally, I believe that congenial work with excitement and change would do me good. But what is one to do? I did write for a while in spite of them, but it exhausts me a good deal, having to be so sly about it, or else meet with heavy opposition. Sometimes I fancy that if I had less opposition and more society and stimulus, but John says the very worst thing I can do is think about my condition. And I confess, it always makes me feel bad. So I will leave it alone and talk about the house, the most beautiful place. It is quite alone, standing well back from the road, nearly 3 miles from the village. It makes me think of English places one reads about. There are hedges and walls and gates that lock. There are separate little houses for the gardeners. There are greenhouses. There are delicious gardens. I never saw such gardens, large and shady, full of box-bordered paths and lined with long grape-covered arbors. There were greenhouses too, but they are broken now. There was some legal trouble, I believe. Something about heirs and co-heirs. At least that's what I heard. But I do not care. There's something strange about the place. I can feel it. One moonlit evening I said so to John. He only laughed and called me fanciful. John laughs at me a great deal. I suppose one must expect that. He is very careful and loving. He hardly lets me stir without special direction. I have a schedule for every hour. He takes care of everything for me, and so I feel ungrateful not to value it more. He said we came here solely on my account, that I am to have perfect rest, perfect air, perfect food, perfect sleep, and no work, especially no writing. Our room is at the very top of the house. It is a great airy chamber, almost the whole floor, windows looking every way, sunshine all day long. It was a nursery first, then a playroom, then I should judge a gymnasium. The windows are barred, there are rings fastened into the walls. The floor is scratched, the plaster is gouged and broken, as though generations of children or prisoners had occupied it. But that is not what troubles me. It is the wallpaper. I never saw a worse wallpaper in my life. One of those sprawling, flamboyant patterns committing every artistic sin. It is dull enough to confuse the eye in following, and pronounced enough constantly to irritate and provoke study. And when you follow the lame, uncertain curves for a little distance, they suddenly commit suicide, plunge off at outrageous angles, destroy themselves in unheard of contradictions. The color is repellent, almost revolting, a smoldering, unclean yellow, strangely faded by the slow turning sunlight. It is a dull yet lurid orange in some places, a sickly sulphur tint in others. I lie awake looking at it, morning after morning, evening after evening. The more I study it, the less I understand it. And somehow I have begun to feel that it is studying me. There comes John. I must put this away. He hates to have me write a word. We have been here 2 weeks now. I have had no desire to write before since that first day. I'm sitting by the window now, up in this atrocious nursery, and there's nothing to hinder my writing as much as I please, save lack of strength. John is away all day, and even some nights when his cases are serious. I'm glad my case is not serious, but these nervous troubles are dreadfully depressing. John does not know how much I really suffer. He knows there is no reason to suffer, and that satisfies him. Sometimes I think that if I were only well enough to write a little, to express what I feel, it would relieve the pressure. But every effort leaves me exhausted, and so I lie still and watch and think. Perhaps I think too much. John is very careful. He's loving. He takes all possible precautions. He scarcely lets me move without advice. Jenny is just as careful. She is a perfect housekeeper. She says she would not wish for a better profession. Sometimes I wonder if she believes I'm really ill. The wallpaper grows stranger every day. By moonlight, and moonlight changes everything, I would not know it was the same paper. At night, in any kind of light, in twilight, candlelight, lamplight, and worst of all by moonlight, it becomes bars, the outside pattern I mean, and the woman behind it becomes as plain as can be. I did not realize for a long time what the thing was that showed behind, that dim sub pattern. But now I'm quite sure it's a woman. By daylight she is subdued. Why? I think the pattern keeps her still. It is so confusing, it keeps her from moving. The front design commits every artistic sin. It twists, it strangles itself, it destroys itself at impossible angles. No wonder the woman behind cannot get out. I catch myself following these absurd curves for hours, trying to discover where they begin, where they end. They never do, they simply turn back upon themselves, as though the paper delighted in making fools of anyone who studied it. And yet, I study it constantly. John laughs. He says the wallpaper is becoming an obsession. He says I must use my willpower. He says I must never give way to fancy. Poor John. He loves me very dearly. He wishes only to help. Sometimes he gathers me into his arms and calls me his little girl. Sometimes he carries me upstairs because I'm tired. Sometimes he sits beside me until I fall asleep. And because he's so kind, I cannot tell him what I really see. He will only smile or prescribe more rest. There is another thing, smell. It has crept over everything. At first I noticed it only in the room. Now it follows me through the house. It lurks in the hall. It waits on the stairs. It hides in the dining room. Sometimes I think it has found its way into the garden. It is the strangest yellow smell. Not strong, not unpleasant exactly, only persistent, subtle, impossible to escape. I wake in the night and find it hanging over me. Sometimes it seems to touch my face, sometimes my hair. When I ride outside, if I turn suddenly, there it is again. I have tried to discover what it resembles. Will paper, damp straw, dust? No, nothing quite like it. It belongs only to this room, to these walls, to that impossible color. Yesterday Jenny surprised me. She was looking at the wallpaper very carefully. When I entered, she started violently. She said she was merely examining a stain, but I know better. She had begun to notice it too. She even admitted, quite innocently, that the paper stains one's clothes if one brushes against it. Yellow marks everywhere. That disturbed me greatly. I do not want anyone studying this wallpaper except myself. It feels private, as though it has chosen me. Sometimes I watch the pattern for hours without moving, and suddenly, just for an instant, I see it move. Not the paper itself, the woman behind it. She shakes the bars, very gently, very patiently, trying to get through. Then daylight returns, and she is still again, waiting, always waiting. I have begun sleeping during the day. John is pleased. He says I look stronger, but I'm awake most nights now. The wallpaper is much more interesting there. Everything changes. The moon slides slowly across the windows, the shadows shift, the pattern loosens, and the woman begins to creep. She moves behind every curve. behind every impossible flourish, stooping, crawling, shaking the pattern with desperate little motions. I almost pity her. Almost. Yesterday I looked from the window, far across the lawn near the hedges. I thought I saw someone moving, a woman, creeping, very low to the ground. She slipped beneath the blackberry bushes and disappeared. When a carriage approached, she hid immediately. No respectable person would creep like that by daylight. I watched until sunset. Then I realized, with a curious certainty, it was the same woman, the one behind the wallpaper. She gets out during the day. There must be many of her, or perhaps only one moving very quickly. I have locked the door now whenever I write. Jenny thinks I sleep. John believes I rest. They need not know. There are things in that wallpaper that nobody knows but me, or ever will. Sometimes, when the house is perfectly silent, I place my hand against the wall and I could almost swear that something on the other side places its hand there too. There is only one day more. John says we shall leave tomorrow. I'm glad. I do not think I could live much longer in this room. And yet, I have become so interested in it, so very interested. John believes I sleep wonderfully. I let him believe it. Sometimes I even close my eyes and breathe slowly until he is satisfied. Poor John. He loves me. He trusts me. He thinks I'm getting better. Jenny is puzzled. She says I look stronger. She cannot understand why I prefer to stay upstairs. She offered to help pack my things this morning. I refused, quite firmly. There are discoveries still to make. The wallpaper changes completely at night. The front pattern becomes bars, and behind those bars, the woman shakes them. Not violently, patiently, hour after hour, trying to loosen them, trying to escape. Sometimes I think there are many women, sometimes only one. But when the moon shines brightly, I always see, stooping, creeping, searching for a way through. I know why she creeps. If she stood upright, the pattern would strangle her. Its ridiculous curves catch at her shoulders. Its distinct shapes seal her neck. No wonder she crawls. No wonder she shakes the bars whenever she finds a little freedom. I have watched her so long that I understand her now. She is trying to get out, and I can help her. Yesterday I locked the door, not because I feared interruption, but because I wished to study the paper properly. Jenny knocked twice. I remained perfectly silent. Eventually she went away. No one must interfere. No one understands except me. There is a long smudge around the room, just at shoulder height. I noticed it weeks ago. Now I know what caused it. The woman has been creeping there, round and round, pressing against the wall, again and again, until the paper itself was worn smooth. I have begun following the same path, very slowly around the room. It helps me think. This afternoon I found a loose strip near the bed, quite by accident. I pulled gently. It came away with surprising ease. Another followed, then another. Behind the torn paper, the pattern seemed lighter, almost free. The woman moved more easily, so I worked harder. I pulled until my fingers ached. Long strips fell round my feet. The room grew strangely brighter. Every piece removed felt like another bar broken. John called through the door. What are you doing, little girl? I'm resting. You sound tired. I'm perfectly well. He seemed satisfied. His footsteps retreated. How little they know. How little any of them know. Night has come. Moonlight fills the room. The woman is more active than ever. She shakes the pattern furiously. She wants to come out. She wants me to help her. So I have locked the door, thrown the key outside. No one can stop us now. I have torn away almost all the paper, only stubborn patches remain, clinging to the wall as though frightened. They cannot keep her any longer. My hands are yellow, my dress is yellow, even my hair smells of the wallpaper. But I do not mind. Nothing matters except finishing. The moon moves slowly across the windows. The pattern twists. The room seems larger than before. The woman no longer stays behind the paper. She is beside me now, ahead of me, around me. We creep together, around the room, round and round, always following the long mark upon the wall. It's easier now. There is so much paper gone. Someone is knocking very loudly. John, open the door. I cannot. For heaven's sake, open it. The key is beneath the front step. Silence, then hurried footsteps. Then the sound of someone running downstairs. How impatient everyone becomes. At last the key turns, the door opens. John stands upon the threshold. For one extraordinary moment, he simply stares. The room is almost bare. Great strips of yellow paper hang from the walls. The floor is covered with torn fragments. The heavy bed has been dragged across the room, and I am creeping steadily along the wall, following the smooth, worn track. He whispers my name, not as a physician, not as a husband, and as someone who no longer understands what he sees. I've got out at last, I tell him, in spite of you and Jane. I smile, and I've pulled off most of the paper so you can't put me back. He looks at me, looks at the walls, looks at the endless circle I have worn around the room, and suddenly, without a word, John faints. He falls directly across my path. Now, why should that man have fainted? It is inconvenient, very inconvenient, because I must continue creeping. And every time I come to him, I have to creep over him, again and again and again. She got out, in her own way, in the only way left to her, she got out. Charlotte Perkins Gilman published The Yellow Wallpaper in 1892 after experiencing the very treatment she describes. She later wrote that she created the story not to drive people mad, but to save them from it. It remains one of the most powerful portraits of isolation, silencing, and the desperate human need to be heard. A story written in 1892 that feels as urgent today as it ever did. Thank you for listening to the Listening Room. If this episode moved you, please subscribe and share it with someone who loves powerful storytelling. Until next time, keep listening.